Hello, guys. Today we will discuss an economic question, which is CIE past paper, and yes. So the question is we will discuss how to write an essay question and how to get full mark. Of course, as for me, I got 8 out of 8 in this question, and I noticed that around me there are a lot of people struggling on how to get a full mark. So maybe I will just give some ideas. So discuss whether or not inflation will harm producers. This is I would say, pretty easy questions, but we need to find out two key points. The first point is inflation. There's no adjective to describe about inflation. So of course, it might be a low and stable inflation, or it might be a hyperinflation. So these 2 points we need to take into consideration. And the second is producers. So producers is not customers. They produce products and belongs to the supply curve of on the chart. So we cannot use any point for customers. For example, inflation increase the price, which would reduce the aggregate demand as a valid argument or point of view to use in this question. So after we have looked through the question, we need to form our own ideas. So the reason why I won't suggest you guys to look at the mark scheme is because the mark scheme would only offer you some key points, and you need to develop and further write in them. But if you just simply copy the mark scheme on your task or on your papers, you will not expect to get a really high score. So you need to form your new ideas. So first, I will stand on my viewpoint of inflation will harm producers. So if I talk about inflation would harm producers, it would means what? So at the first or in the beginning, we need to introduce the concept of inflation. Inflation is a general rise in the price value. Okay, a general rise in the price value. This is a price value. Yeah, this is the definition. So it is really good, or a really good habit, to start off with the definition of the thing they asked you, the inflation's definition. And though in IGCSE level, the introduction will not give you any extra mark, but having a good habit is always decent, and it will help you in the A level. So after we give out the definition of inflation means a general rise in the price level, so we need to consider from the producer's viewpoint. So if raising the price level, as for producers, it must not be because the price of the goods raised, so we tend to purchase less good, which is a common mistake. They did my classmates. So we must say that because of the rise in price level, the factors of production would have higher cost. So why? First is land. Because of the inflation, the price of land or rental rates tend to increase. And also for capital, because of inflation, you need to purchase, of course, more advanced capital. So, the cost of production for them would also increase because of the price of the capital increase. And also for the factors, it also increase. So the factors of production would have a higher cost. So not only higher cost, if I say to consider more viewpoint on the labor, they tend to have a higher wage, which will raise up cost. So we need to further elaborate why the laborers would have a higher wage. Because as the productivity also remain the same, but since the inflation, they will have more bargaining power, because they will see the market and they say that we need or you ought to have those kind of amounts of you need to pay me this level of wage, or I can reach a higher wage job, and you will lose me. Simply, yes, I can have a better pay, and this will let like entrepreneurs think of like I need to make our enterprise keep competitive, so we need to raise their wages, but only if you raise their wages, since they have the bargaining power, you will find yourself raise the cost of production, and it needs to of course need to extend the workers' contract. And since we all knew that despite the government or like the companies would like pursue the profit maximizing, so it means they, in order to at least gain the same amount of profit or even exceed the profits like previously gained, they need to increase the price level. For example, the cost of production or the total cost of one product is $5, and the original selling price is $10, but now it is $6. So the entrepreneurs, in order to have profit maximization, they tend to increase the price to $11 or higher to keep a $5 profit. So after they need profit maximizing, they need to raise the price. And it is called a cost push inflation because it tends to cover the actual cost being paid to the cost of productions, to cover the cost. And also it might lead to a decrease in the aggregate demand, which inflation can making a business has a less profit. But the reason why aggregate demand would let a business have a less profit is because like their revenue will decrease because less people are purchasing them, as though their price of increase. So the revenue always is determined by the elasticity of demand. If it is inelastic, then the revenue will even be higher. But if it's really elastic, the revenue will be lower. And this is actually what you cannot say, but if you are not producing necessities, you might or tend to see a decrease in your own revenue, causing a decrease in your own profit. And second is the menu cost and also the shoe leather cost. They are generally always like they will appear at the same time on the answer, so I will first and only to elaborate the menu cost. The menu cost was caused by the inflation, no matter it is a low and stable inflation or hyperinflation. But now we emphasize ourselves, or especially on the hyperinflation or a really high rate of inflation, because business need to frequently change the price tag. So here we can use an example because I'm studying history. So example could be during the Weimar hyperinflation in 1923, like they kept like the a famous joke is the bread price tend to increase like almost like geographically to even like 2 to 3 times per day. So it is truly they need to change the price tag, but the truth is that they need to change the price tag even 2 to 3 hours. So they need this expenditure for business, or this cost for business is of course extra cost, and this will let them have a higher cost than cost the many cost and also shoe leather cost. And the third is to consider in the long run, because my first previously two viewpoints is in the short run. In the short run, like they would gain a lower profit and also they would have a extra cost. But in the long run, because of the uncertainty for the business, because they cannot to plan their future, so in order to keep it in a safe place, they tend not to invest that much of money because they are not sure about the situation. So compared to have a almost zero hope to gain a high profit, they tend to like decrease what they would lost. So they tend to invest less money and to be more cautious. So they will the result is they would get less profit to prevent making a huge loss. And this is the inflation cost and this is the support point. Of course, in some exams you may need to write 2 and 2 or 3 and 1, but if you wanted to keep it safe to ensure you got a really high level 6 to 8 marks, it's really great or recommended for you guys to write about 5 points. So despite the 3 points of the inflation, like the inflation hard producers, the other 2 viewpoints probably would come out like the inflation will not come producers. And this comes the question, is the inflation a hyperinflation or low and stable inflation? So we might say or suggest the inflation rate mentioned may be low and stable, because the low and stable inflation will only be seen as an asset, or yes, to help maintain a stable economic growth. It will help maintain the purchasing power of the currency, and also to have make the producers more confident, because they can see the general trend and they are confident about how much money the strategy of their market. Yes, so if they gain confidence, they tend to invest more money because the market environment is healthy and pro producers. So it can always bring firms more profits. And also, the inflation would also increase in the tax revenue, because as for increase, for the inflation, the business would tend to get higher revenue because of the fluctuation of price tag, and also no matter you are charging what kind of tax rate, you are always based on the higher revenue, a fixed rate of interest is charged, or like the tax is charged, you will always get a higher tax revenue, because they will have like a lot of people working, and their revenue can be extracted from them. And also it will help the government, because the low and stable inflation, or just simply the inflation, will cause they will cause less people tend to be unemployed. This will help governments to have a higher budget surplus or lower budget deficit, which can put all of these things on the welfare products, and only for producers they can expect on more subsidies become they will receive more subsidies, and they can really help producers to get off chaos. And this is a how to write a marks question. So if possible, please support my channel, and I will keep updating some effective problem solving skills for especially economics. And thank you all, have a nice day.